I mean, I hear both sides. From retailers, it's like the sky's falling sometimes, and other retailers are like, no, it's growing.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I do think that there's a sky is falling crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people that are believers in their ability to pivot regardless of the circumstances. Like, we're always going to make it.
Yeah.
And those are the people I try to surround myself with. You still have to be realistic, but at the end of the day, you can always make it if you have the belief and have the work ethic behind it to move the needle.
Yeah.
If you're a person of like, oh my gosh, tariffs, the value of the dollar is going down, our customers are going to stop spending, we're headed towards a crash or a recession, well, speak it to reality or start making adjustments now and pivot. Being nimble in our age, with especially tech, you have to be, right?
Yeah. Do you know the term VUCA?
Talk to me.
Volatility, uncertainty, chaos, ambiguity. That's VUCA. So we're living in a VUCA world. But the opposite of that is vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. So there's like two sides of VUCA. And you choose to live in that second side, and it's all about taking advantage of the situation and pivoting, like you're saying. And that's the mentality.
I was trying to say that eloquently, but you just killed it. I mean, that was it. Guys, we're hanging out with two buddies from Colorado, and I have David's. What are these, ranch? I stole Riley's David sunflower seeds. If you guys want some, they're like the best thing I've ever had. But we're hanging out today in studio. Thanks for flying up this morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
How was the direct flight?
Easy.
What time did it take off?
We left Colorado about 7:30. And we're super easy, close to the airport.
Okay. What part of Colorado?
Boulder.
Proper?
Boulder, Colorado. Yep.
How far is it from Denver? You guys are south of Denver?
North of Denver.
Okay, so it goes Boulder and then Loveland?
Yep.
Okay.
Then Fort Collins.
I mean, today it's like Boulder's becoming a suburb of Denver, pretty much.
It's about connected?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How far is Rocky Mountain National Park from you guys?
25 miles.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we can be there half an hour, 45 minutes, right up the canyon. Depending what part of the park you're going to.
What part of the park should I go to October 11th and 12th of 2025?
You want to see elk?
What do you think?
So there's a basin, and Beaver Meadows, is the name of it, correct? And they got...
Riley's writing this down over there because
like,
we're literally have a plan to take two long lenses and split up and go get that footage.
Dude, it's unbelievable. I mean, I say this every year. I need to be spending more time in Rocky Mountain National Park just watching the elk. You learn so much because you see as many elk there in 10 minutes as I would see in an entire season,
right?
Out in the backcountry, and they're doing their thing. It's really cool, special to have.
We got that post on our social that you got these guys crossing the road. I mean, we counted like how many were there.
Yeah, this herd is unbelievable. It's on our social. Just steady stream of elk straight in front of us.
Really?
Yeah, at night. It was awesome.
Then you see these like satellites cross at the end and you're like, oh man, that's sweet. And then it's like, oh, those are just satellites. Yeah. You got this herd bowl of, 100 elk.
Okay.
It's wild.
Yeah, we're pumped. Like, I should draw Colorado this year. And we planned that far ahead. So we're trying to hopefully if it works out, Lord willing, we'll be kind of coming down a couple days early to just do that. I've been wanting to do that. It's a bucket list item. Obviously, I'm not going to do that in September, but I think October 11th, 12th should still be pretty fire.
Yeah.
And then we can get some of that cool footage and then go do our hunt. I haven't hunted in Colorado since 2012. Was the last time I went on an over-the-counter elk hunt. It was cool. And that's it. I don't have a lot of reps in your state.
Which unit were you in 12?
You want me to say? I mean, I don't care, but I'm going to make somebody mad and they're going to direct message me, hate me for life. So I'll say it anyways.
It's all good.
You know when you go to like a Catholic church and it's like you walk into the building and it's a cathedral? That's my hint. Does that give it away? Good. It doesn't. Some people will get it, but that's where I was. Shot a bull day 5, little rag bull. It was a cool hunt. It was different country. It's not what I expected. When I think Colorado, I think of, that western slope, the 14,000 footers, timberline, parking, trying to find a parking spot, 30 other trucks at a trailhead, have a game warden waiting for you to look at your bow.
That's it. Living the life.
Hear some muzzleloaders go off 50 yards from me, 3rd week of September.
Dude, don't get us started.
I'm trying. What is
you want to do the muzzleloader?
Let's get into it. That's just, we're going to get in.
Straight out the gate.
Well, listen, parks, I got a mouthful of sunflower seeds. So Colorado Parks and Wildlife, hello. I think you do a great job. I think you have a lot of elk. But I also think you dropped the ball so hard on a couple things. And we're going to dive into those a little bit. And it's just our opinion, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. That was my disclaimer.
God bless America.
God bless America. So, yeah, guys, tell us about Colorado public land, sharing the woods with smoke poles.
Yeah, I think I speak for both of us that this last year was our first year in many years hunting anything but OTC. So our experience is 90% OTC hunting, and Colorado archery season muzzleloader overlaps third week of the season every year. So it's this sort of, I always pretend that the day that first gunshot rings out, that's like the elk finally know. They're getting a little pressure, but then it's like, that's the trigger for them.
You're right.
And people argue that helps push them around, put more pressure into them, get them moving. But I'd much rather stay in that first phase of hunting and being in the environment without a gunshot going off.
For me, it's scary because it's always the 3rd week of archery season, which is arguably, the best season or the most talkative, but you have people with a full-on rifle out there. We're sounding like elk. We're traipsing around through there, acting like elk. And then you have people with a full-on rifle right there, and half the time they're not wearing orange. They're required to, of course. But, we ran into a guy, let's see, just not this past season, but the season before, and it's last light, and we're calling this basin. We have an elk bugling and coming into us.
This is like 2 miles in the backcountry, so not like trailhead hunting.
Yeah. So we were close, but nothing ends up happening. We hear him kind of spook and run off. And so we're hiking out. It's dark, and we bump this guy. He's just got a muzzleloader over his shoulder, no orange, nothing. He's like, man, you guys, you had him coming straight into us. He was really close. And we're like, what are you talking about? Like,
where were you?
Where were you? We didn't see you at all. And he's like, we said, why aren't you wearing orange? He's like, well, you guys aren't wearing orange. I'm like, yeah, well, we don't have a muzzleloader. Right? We're archery hunters. We wouldn't have been here if we knew you had a muzzleloader.
Yeah, brought a gun to a knife fight.
So he was like unapologetic, unashamed.
Yeah, he was, in the group of like trying to convince us why he shouldn't have to wear orange. It wasn't even like, oh shoot, you're right, I forgot. It was straight up like, no, I'm not wearing orange.
Then I think, then
the night before, or 2 nights before, we had actually had a game warden come up. Right. We were pulled over on the side of the road, camping, just sleeping in the back of the truck over a long night before we got back into the backcountry, and happened to be camped in a spot that you're not supposed to, I guess, pull over and sleep. And the game warden knocked on our truck, got us out. So we told the guy, we're like, yeah, the game wardens are like here running around. So put your orange on, not just for that, but for the safety of us.
Yeah, and it's not, it's not about them kind of screwing in the elk woods or messing up. It's like a huge safety thing.
I agree.
Last year too, we were coming down, we were getting ready to change locations, and we're coming through super, super thick stuff. Like
down low.
Brush it out of your way, kind of fight through it. And we come through a little clearing, and there's a 10-year-old kid with a muzzleloader pointed straight at us. And his dad kind of grabs the rifle and pulls it out of the way. And they were just there bear hunting, and literally, it was touch and go.
Yeah, like I bet you less than 20 yards in front of us. And that's what they were listening for. They were listening for a bear moving through the brush down low, in this little basin. And we were trying to be quiet because we just didn't want our voices carrying. But in hindsight, it's almost like you want a bear bell on walking through, knowing that. And that was a rifle, wasn't it?
Yeah, because that was a rifle.
Yeah.
We got more. You want to keep going?
Yeah. Well, didn't somebody get shot from Pennsylvania not too long ago? And no, a guy from Pennsylvania shot someone in Colorado with a muzzleloader. Thought they were a bull,
Yeah, and out of state.
and he died. That guy, and he had a family.
Yep.
Do you guys know
Yeah,
the
and
deets on that?
I know. I remember it was a guy from Pennsylvania, out of state, and I don't know any more than that.
Yeah, I mean it's sad,
but
and
it's
it could be so easily prevented.
Right.
It's sort of obvious that that's an issue. We are literally acting like elk, sounding like elk,
Have a decoy.
putting ourselves in elk territory, and then they're looking for elk. So yeah, it's wild that that's an overlap.
And then if you take the kind of safety out of it, we have some frustrating examples too. I think, man, this is probably 10 years ago. We're calling. We've been kind of chasing this one bugle for a while, and we finally, go downwind and we start coming back up the mountain. And so he's coming down to us, and he finally starts closing the distance, and he's running. He's running to us. We have, kind of right on the edge of a little kind of rolling hill. We got 2 shooters on top and a caller down low, and he's coming in like he's beelining straight to us. And as he starts getting closer, we just hear this muzzleloader. And so, I always
50 yards from us.
I always keep orange in my backpack, so in case you're packing out something or rack, and so we kind of take it out, wave it up.
It's like we were in war. We
we
had
had
a flag up in the air. We're like, don't shoot, we're coming out.
I'm not laughing.
Yeah,
This is scary.
Yeah.
yeah, we're laughing about it now just because we're used to it now, and so we get up there and we see him, and he's a nice 5x5, I think, and we get up there and we start talking to him for a minute, and there's another part of that too. But he goes, man, that bull was running right to your calls. And we're like, yeah, we've been working this bull all morning.
That sucks, man. Well,
let me say this too. On the muzzleloader, it's not, some of these things are muzzleloader's fault, right? But they're legal in season, right? It's not.
Yeah.
If I was a muzzleloader hunter, that'd be perfect. You can go to screaming bulls in the middle of September. That's an amazing experience.
I'm all about the concept of getting more people out in the woods. And one day, when I'm not able to pull my bow back anymore, maybe, I'm sure I'll get into that, and I'll love being back in the country with my muzzy, but, put a break in the season,
Yeah.
Get the archery hunters out of the woods, let the muzzies go in, and then give us another week on the end of it. And that starts to push into rifle season. I get it, but it just seems to be a conflict of interest.
Well, I think Idaho's got a muzzleloader, like a dedicated muzzleloader season, and it's after rifle. So it's not as good a season. It's November, which I kind of like. I like the idea of those guys. Give those guys the woods. And Washington State, which I never say they do anything good, they do have a muzzy season that typically is somewhere in the first 10 days of October. And you can downgrade. You can use a bow during that if you want, although I don't think you would want to experience some of the stuff you guys just shared, but you can. But at least it's separate. It's like, I think you should segregate those seasons for sure. Would you want to give muzzies the last week of September? Would that hurt your feelings?
It hurts my feelings that they're anytime in September.
Fair.
But I think, I'm sure they have their reasons for when they are, but I think my recommendation would be you give 4 weeks to archery, a week of muzzy, and then you start rifle.
Yeah, just tail it right into rifle season.
Mm-hmm. Now, you guys have 3 or 4 rifle seasons for elk?
I think we have 4.
Yep.
Okay. And is it probably, I would assume the first season's the most coveted?
Yeah, because you can get them still talking, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It also depends on weather. Sometimes it'll stay warm the whole way through first season, but as soon as that first snow breaks and starts to push the animals around, sometimes second can end up being a little better. But yeah, I think first, you're pretty much catching the rut in first rifle, which is wild.
Yeah.
The tail end of it.
That's what I put in for in Colorado this year was not an archery hunt, was a rifle hunt. Now, I may use a bow, I may not. Well, it's like a 5-day season.
Yeah.
But my intent was to catch bugling and to burn up these 17 points that aren't doing me any favors, because I wanted to hunt Northwest Colorado when I first started putting in for Colorado's draws 17 years ago. And it didn't take me long to figure out that they weren't distributing enough tags, because it's a true preference in Colorado, meaning the most points. And then they hadn't grouped units together, so it was all just one unit. And then eventually it was like, nope, That's not a possibility. Like the math doesn't. So let's try to draw 76. I couldn't draw 76. I can go down the list of all the units I dropped down to. So eventually I'm just like, I'm tired of giving your state money. I have plenty of elk closer to me. It's a long drive to Colorado from here, like long. So hopefully I'm out of the Colorado game after this year. I'm trying to burn both my mule deer and my elk points. They're both 17. So hopefully we'll find out soon. And then there's the second draw, right? You guys have that weird second draw.
Yeah, they just switched that, 3 years ago or so?
How does that work?
Any tags that weren't drawn in the first, or people that have traded them back in, go back into the draw, and you can actually put in for it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the leftover draw, which is a time basis. Like literally, you're on your computer ready to click the second it opens up, and you can get anything. But the secondary draw is an actual draw again, correct?
That makes sense. And then in 2028, that's when a lot of stuff changes for you guys?
I don't know the year that it changes.
I think that is the next cycle
Right.
out.
Okay.
Do you know what they're talking about changing? I mean, I've heard that there's a weighted point, like they might try to weight points. To
like
get
a
them out of the
hybrid
system.
draw, to where like you could maybe have some random chance of actually drawing instead of just giving all preference. Now there'll be like a chance for a guy with 1 point to draw some of these tags.
Yeah.
So it's just a way to like get away from true preference, so that people start burning a little bit more points, or at least quit buying a preference point. Start putting your name in the hat. You have a chance.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we'll see. And then obviously some price increases and stuff, probably mostly for non-residents. Every state's probably going to do that. Just kind of where the economy's at, and supply and demand, just basic economics, like whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
It's a limited resource.
When you get down to Colorado, let us know, because we're right outside Rocky Mountain National Park.
Yeah. If you guys are down, we'll have to go do a little. We're just want to kill elk with cameras. We just want to take cool photos and videos for a couple days, and I just want to check that box. I've never been in that park.
You'll have a blast there, man.
I can't wait. I'm pretty pumped. And shout out to my wife. She doesn't know this yet, but she's probably gonna give me divorce papers, because I'll probably be gone by August 28th. And I don't see where my schedule has me coming home until sometime before that trip. And then I'll be like, hi, bye. And then, this is going to be my longest go, I think. So it's stupid, but I'm just trying to get rid of some points and stuff. So I drew a Montana General tag, which is like a combo.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's a 6-week archery season. It gives me a little flexibility. Obviously, I'm a resident Idaho. I can go buy whatever over-the-counter tag I want. I drew New Mexico with my dad, so that's going to be interesting. My dad's 68, and it'll be cool to share a camp with him, but I don't know how well he'll get around and stuff, so I'm not going to like stress out about babysitting him or even calling for him. I'm just going to tell him to probably set water as much as possible if it's hot and dry, and don't overdo it, Dad, and just have fun. Have fun being in the elk woods, man. He didn't get to elk hunt last year. He had to have a kidney removed.
Oh, man.
Right at the beginning of September. They thought there was cancer on it, and it turns out it wasn't, but too late, kidney gone, and that's a long recovery. So he didn't get to elk hunt at all last year. So that's what I'm excited for, is that hunt. And then I go to Utah to hunt with Black Rifle Coffee Company, and then probably Montana, come home for a day or two. If I kill some elk, it's gonna be interesting to see how the heck I get. Like last year I spent, I don't want to do the math, but it's over $2,000, maybe even over $3,000 in butchering fees, because I was gone and I had to get elk meat to butchering shops, which I'm a DIY butchering guy. Like I have the wild meat gear. I let my meat age for 14 days. I have all the processing, all the knives. I have the apron. I have the little kit on my hip, like I'm a butcher, man. And
You got the vibe.
I paid
The butcher
everybody.
vibe.
I paid everybody to take care of my meat last year so I could keep hunting. And I just don't. I mean, it was just. Oh, I hate it. It's like
It's a
sacrilegious.
good thing to have to spend money on, though.
It is. It is. So I'll figure that part out as I go, and then it's just gonna be a wild season, and I think I'm gonna be fine ACL wise. Like, you know, I went bear hunting, like I told you guys last couple of days, just really tested my knee. Like we did some really long miles with heavy backpacks
Nice.
through like deep snow and, you know, post holing, and
Based on that workout we just did, if you're not ready, I don't know what it looks like to be ready.
Yeah.
You're hammering, man.
Trying to. I'm not back where I was, that's for sure. But, you know, as you get older, like you guys are both almost you're in your same age as me. You're 43.
Yep.
So Levi's 43. Matt, you're almost 40?
I'll be 40 this year.
When's your birthday?
August 20th.
Awesome. When's your birthday?
October.
Cool. Have do you guys do any of the Colorado like pronghorn hunts or the summer hunts?
Yeah, I did. I've done antelope rifle or antelope archery a couple times. Maybe a buddy, and you know, maybe I don't draw and I'll drive around, and that's super fun. But
Not a fun hunt.
in Colorado, we only have probably 2 units that are public for antelope.
Oh,
Just with how much private land there is out there.
Because, you know, we're basically split right down the middle. You got the Front Range and the Rockies, and then it's half the state's mountains, half the state's complete plains, but all the plains are private.
yeah.
So I've never archery hunted Colorado for antelope, but last year was my first rifle spot and stock antelope. And man, it is like the Wild West because everybody's going for these 2 units. You have to be there on opening day. And man, the game wardens are out in force.
Yeah, Levi's got a game warden.
Let's hear it.
Oh man. So this
Shout
is
out to game wardens, by the way. Like, that's a tough job.
tough job.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to even say this, like, but you gotta hold the law. Like, you gotta hold the letter of the law. And there's some scumbags, right?
100%.
Yeah.
But there's also some low hanging fruit that if you're a scumbag game warden, you can drive revenue. You could write some tickets for some stupid stuff, and probably make your superiors happy. So like, I don't know where you balance that out,
Yeah,
but
that's
like,
incentivized is the key, I think.
yeah, but either way, a thankless job, but we thank you game wardens for allowing us to do what we do. But, there's good apples, bad apples, like in any law enforcement. Let's hear your story.
And I mean, as far as their workload, I mean, they're always understaffed. They have a huge area.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're in the backcountry by themselves and everyone has a firearm.
God.
You know what I mean? Like that's and you're giving them citations. Like if they don't want it, it's just a tough job. But, you know, as an example, so we're out in the plains of Colorado on public land. And if you've never seen the plains of Colorado, we didn't see a tree like for 2 days. You know, it is completely flat.
It would help the hunt a lot if there was.
There's nothing there, and there's no roads, right? And so we're using Onyx, and we're trying to stick to roads, but there's 2-track everywhere, and so we see some antelope kind of far off, and so we kind of pull off the road, kind of below what is considered a hill. You know, it's like 5 feet elevation gain, and we park, and then you know my buddy who I had drove around during his archery season, he didn't have a license. And so he's driving me around. And so he stops and, you know, I get out and put a stock on these and nothing ends up happening. And he sends me a text and says, "Hey, I'm getting a ticket from the game warden." And I'm like, what in the world? And so I'm thinking,
you couldn't see him?
No, I was, I kind of trekked a good bit of ways. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? And so he calls me real quick and he's like, yeah, the warden's giving me a citation for being 50 yards off of the road. And I was like, what road? It's like grass as far as you can see. And so I'm on my way back and I'm thinking to myself, all right, do I just wait until this citation is over? Or
Probably.
yeah, exactly. Okay, exactly. And so
Well, I think they were doing that. Hey, we'll just wait here till your buddy comes back.
yeah. And so I'm like, all right, I'll head back. And so the reason he's getting a ticket is because he's 50 yards off of a quote road. And so we're like, okay, that's fine. We didn't know. So our buddy,
What's the threshold?
yeah, I don't know. Our buddy's like, I'm sorry, we didn't know. I'll get back on the road. And they're like, it's going to be a citation. And so I'm on my way back and I see the warden, right? So he comes walking out to me and I stop and I say, hey, my firearm's unloaded. I pull the bolt back. I said, my bolt's open, safety's on. I just want you to know, I'm safe here. And he says, okay. And he calls me up and he says, let me see your license. And so obviously I show him my license and everything. And he's like, okay, you got a suppressor on your rifle, I see. And I said, yeah. He's like, you got your tax stamp with you?
No.
And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. He's like, well, how do I know this is your suppressor? And
Did you have cell phone service?
So I said, all right, if I have cell phone service, I can look, because I had saved something in my email, my official.
Same.
And so I pulled it up, but I literally couldn't have been nicer, right? I'm walking, I have everything according to it. My gun is off, my bolt is open. And he could have just been like, oh, that's cool, let me check your license. But he starts pushing this like, all right, let me see your suppressor, let me see your tax stamp, let me make sure that have your receipt. And so I showed him my receipt, but I was just like, man, you don't have to go that far.
Yeah.
I mean, back to what you were saying, I completely appreciate they're out there protecting our resource. Like, someone's got to do it. And they don't know. I mean, if they knew Levi's pedigree and his background, they would have treated him differently, I'm sure. But they don't know who they're walking up on. So
No.
I get that. It is a tough job. But once it starts happening, it does feel like if you get the microscope out, certainly you'll find something, like don't have enough orange on my shoelaces or something that you get a ticket for.
And my buddy who was driving, so they ended up giving a ticket, $150 or something. And they said, if you had a license, if you were actually hunting and you were driving and you're 50 yards off the road, you would get your license suspended for 3 years just for driving around and being off the road. And you got to keep in mind, this is like, there's no roads.
That's crazy to me.
So did you guys get any clarification on the rule exactly?
Yeah. So their answer, not on the distance, but their answer was, if you're using Onyx, I don't know, whatever the color is, stay on the purple marked roads. And that was the answer.
Okay.
That's how
you weren't on BLM?
I don't think so. No.
Because BLM is usually pretty gracious with pulling off to the side of the road or whatever, that kind of thing. National Forest is a little more stringent. State could be, who knows? It could be. And my problem hunting all these different states is like I literally have to have a stack of regs, like paper regs, in my truck and like thumb through some pages when I get there just to make sure I got all my ducks in a row. So when I hunt Colorado, do you guys got any advice for me on like obvious things to be like, I know you have to have X amount of hunter orange and it's got to be solid blaze.
Solids, yeah.
It can't have like camouflage on it.
Or pink. They have a pink option.
Hey.
It also, if you're wearing a backpack, you have to have it, whatever square footage or square inches your backpack covers, you need that orange on your backpack.
Did not know that. Okay, that's good. And then the other thing in Colorado that's different than other states is like, if I'm on a 4-wheeler and I have a bow, I have to have my bow in a case.
Yeah.
I can't have it on my backpack, which I do all the time while hunting in Idaho, Montana. I just put my bow in my backpack, dude. I don't bring a case around.
Does that apply to dirt bikes? Because I feel like I've seen that. People on dirt bikes with their bows.
Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of dirt bikes, I get accused of being some dirt bike poacher. I still get comments to this day. And so for anyone, please go find my name and record and prove that I have a ticket or a written warning for a dirt bike. I don't. We had a run-in with a game warden in 2021. And by I talked to the game warden, but I talked to him in the woods. I was riding in to check or to get all my trail cameras out. I'd already killed. I was tagged out, and I was sharing a camp with my cameraman, who was not tagged out and was hunting elk off of his dirt bike. Actually, his dirt bike was one of my dirt bikes. I had two, so I let him borrow one. And he's riding in and hunting and riding out. And in this particular part of Idaho, there's a rule that says, it's called the Motorized vehicle rule. You cannot use like a dirt bike or a 4-wheeler, whatever the trail allows. You can't ride in and ride out day in and day out. It's to like keep pressure off the animals. You can use a dirt bike or whatever that's legal to ride a camp in. Like, so you got to leave your machine at your spike camp.
Wow. So it's like quantity of use.
Exactly. And then if like you want, like say you forgot your jet boil, you ride all the way back in 5 miles, you set up this camp and you're like, I got no way of boiling water. You can ride back out to camp and grab your jet boil, but you should leave your bow at camp. Like don't be riding in and riding out. Also, if you kill something, you can use your dirt bike to, in this instance, to ride quarters in and out. In my instance, I wasn't hunting anymore. That trail is open year round to dirt bikes recreation. So I'm good to go. So I'm just riding out, and I ran into a dude who was filming me with his phone, and he had his phone, and I didn't know it, and I was talking to him about where to go elk hunting, and Jake had just gone elk hunting, and he was like, he thought I was with Jake, and I was like, no, that guy's going up there, and he's like, well, you can't ride dirt bikes back here, and I'm like, yeah, I can. I'm totally legal. And I didn't have a bow on me, nothing. I was just getting trail cam, and he's filming that, and he just filmed just like a quick clip, so he didn't film the whole conversation, or maybe he did, but he only posted on YouTube this, like, I don't even think it's a minute long, but it makes me look bad. And it got to a couple of hunting forums, and well, anyways, that guy called the game warden and said, there's guys riding their dirt bikes illegally day in and day out, and so he must have called him right away, because I got all my trail cams. I don't know where Jake is. He's hunting, and I'm riding out, and I'm almost to the end of the trailhead, and this dirt bike trail sucks. It's like full helmet and try not to die. You ever been on one of those?
Yeah.
And I'm not bad at riding a dirt bike, and it's just your butt's puckered the whole time. It's steep, shale, side hill. Like, it sucks to ride horses on these trails, let alone a bike. And game warden jumps out of, like, he's like behind a tree, and like I'm like all technical, trying to like not die, and then he jumps out, and I stop, and I talk to him for like 10 seconds. He's like, hello. I'm like, hello. He's like, are you hunting? I'm like, no. He's like, okay, have a nice day. And that was it. And I just rode to camp, and I'm like at camp checking trail cameras and stuff. And then eventually Jake came out, and game warden was super nice to him, and like only wrote him a written warning saying, hey, he didn't know about the rule, whatever. And then somehow people think that was me. So, and I've already said this multiple times on this pod, so I just feel like I have to say it for the record. I don't have any big game violations, none. No written warnings, and I hope that never changes. I could make a mistake, and I definitely won't do it unknowingly. Yeah. I definitely, like, I'm a dot I cross T kind of guy. I have to be, right?
Yeah.
Like we all are, but
and there's so many rules that are in laws that are dynamic. They're changing all the time. Colorado does a pretty good job of. I love their big game magazine that they put out. They're like the new things in bold, and it's this nice section.
Yeah.
You refresh yourself on those, and you feel like you're up to speed on the new things. But yeah,
I would have overlooked that Hunter Orange on the backpack thing.
Yeah, it's like those kinds of infractions are it's our responsibility to stay up to speed on it. So,
and if I film it and put it on the internet,
yeah,
you can use that against me and go back. Like, a game warden could see that YouTube video and call up and say, hey, I was watching your video. No, she didn't have enough Hunter Orange because your backpack's covering some of it. Like, I would have been like, yeah, send me the ticket, So
yeah.
you really gotta, dot your I's, cross your T's. But I've never understood, like, you were asking me about what's my let off. And I have two bows over there. One let off is 85, which is illegal in a lot of states. And one is 80, which is what I hunt with. And I like 80. I like 75% let off if they'd make them. I love a ton of, like, I love to hold a lot of weight and just pull, push, break. I shoot more accurately that way. So like I shoot at 80% let off better than 85, just more accurate. That being said, I've never had a game warden check my bow and look at, is my arrow heavy enough?
Yeah, we had a
like, tell me about that experience, because that's crazy.
Yeah, we were in a wilderness area, which is like no wheels at all, so you can't even ride a bike back there.
Oh, I like it.
You can pull a cart. I think that's the only wheel you're allowed to have back in the wilderness. And ride
you guys
a horse.
seen those like e-bike carts? It's like,
oh yeah, it's a cart powered by
battery.
Yeah,
you ever seen those?
That's probably illegal.
That's probably illegal, but damn, those look pretty slick. Anyways,
yeah. So we've been back in the wilderness, and the area that we hunt borders private on two of the sides, and of course the elk are they have that as a corridor that they're going back and forth, and that basin that is in the bottom of private, there's a ton of stands on that you can glass over and see. So we had been going down there to try to find the elk when they're crossing, and weren't successful at it. But anyways, started hiking out, came to the trailhead, and there was a game warden. And this is a huge area of Colorado where the game warden's probably covering, hundreds of square miles.
It's like probably the size of New Jersey.
Yeah.
Damn.
So the fact
and
that
he just happens to be at the trailhead.
The fact that a game warden was there when we happened to pop out of the woods after I don't know how many days, 5 days or something. I think that the folks on private were glassing us and just were buddies with the game, local game warden. Like, hey, come
Or
and
have
check
them on
these guys.
speed dial for the a-holes that do come onto their
'Cause I'm
property.
sure people had been, so in some ways I get that. But anyways, this game warden, he was really nice, but microscopic inspection of our gear.
Really?
Yeah. To the point, like I said, taking a look at the cams. At the time, I think I was shooting a Matthews no cam, and they were labeled, on the cam, like where your screw was set for let off.
Oh, okay. And he checked your let off.
Checked let off, checked, I forget what site I was running, but it had the option to have a light in it. And I had the light in there, but no batteries, just, because it was a hole, it would let in light and it would look weird when you look through the sight at certain angles. He turned it to make sure it was off, pulled out our arrows just casually as he was, like, you didn't feel like you were being inspected,
right?
but it was like Inspector Gadget. Like
he's a pro, whoever that game was, like to casually have a conversation with you while thoroughly inspecting what he expects. That's the way to do it.
I picked up a muley deadhead last year, and it's like, it was probably just the upper half of the skull, but I mean, clearly I'd been there for a year. And I've set it on, I have a rack on the top of my truck, and I set it there, and about midnight.
A nice deadhead. I was
I was a 218 score or something for a muley. It's huge,
Jeez.
And, but the warden stops. I think we had gotten in, it's probably midnight, we had just gotten back. I think you had already kind of crawled in the back of the truck and was sleeping. I was stretching or something, and lights pull in, and warden comes up to us, and he's like, "Hey, I see you got that muley. Can I check your licenses?" And I was like, "Oh man, no, it's just a deadhead." And he's like,
"No, let me check your licenses." At this point, I'm like waking up.
Yeah, Matt's literally like in his sleeping bag, pulls him out, checks our licenses, and he's like, "So where'd you get that? Where'd you find that deadhead?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is one of those days where it's like we were truck hunting. It was like drive 200 yards, hike in a mile or two, come back, drive another couple miles, hike in. Yeah, we probably
just trying to find animals.
We probably went 12 miles that day in 6 different spots, and so he's asking us, where were you? And so, but coming back to this thing, like he's a pro, right? So he's like, "Where'd you find that?" And I said, "Oh man, I crossed a bridge over here. I kind of don't really remember." And so he'd ask us a few more questions, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, so where were you when you found that deadhead again?"
He's like, "You mentioned a bridge. I've been there a lot. I've never seen a bridge." And we're like, "Well, then maybe it wasn't that area, but we definitely went over a bridge. Never hunted here, so maybe we got the name of the draw wrong."
But the point is, like, he asked that like literally 3 or 4 times, and then finally I'm like, "All right, let me go get my phone. Let me pull. I have it marked on Onyx, And he's like, but he was checking everything. He wanted to make sure exactly where we found. But it was 100% clear this is a deadhead, right? It's been out there for years, whitewashed, and
I couldn't understand that one, but he was adamant of where we had found it.
Well, it's another thing to your point. If you find a beautiful deadhead in Idaho, take it home. If you find a beautiful deadhead in Washington State, no.
Oh.
Same with New Mexico. You got to get a hold, or Arizona probably too. I think you have to get a hold of the game warden and send them photos. If you don't want to wait for them to drive out there and inspect the scene, but like send them an abundance of photos to prove like it's natural causes or whatever. And if it's not quite black and white, you can't take it. Like they're going to come out and check it. Like I found this ridiculous 7x7 bull, Arizona. Nice. We're actually, I'll say it. We're actually in the Grand Canyon, like as a family on spring break. And I was like, guys, Grand Canyon ends right here. And then I think it's Unit 1. I'm like, let's go shed hunting. Like, let's legit go shed hunting. And so we started shed hunting. And of course, I don't find sheds, but I find this freaking giant deadhead. It's on Instagram somewhere. And I just literally knew I couldn't have it. You know what I mean? So I just walked away from it. Always wondered about it. Always wondered, like, somebody probably found it and got it home. But it was just like, probably like a 370, 7x7. I couldn't tell. There's no arrow in the rib cage, but like it definitely had died in the fall. It wasn't like fresh in the spring or whatever.
Wasn't winter kill.
It wasn't winter kill. So it makes sense. That checks out Unit 1. Pretty sick. But I ain't going to bring no deadhead out of Unit 1 into the Grand Canyon National Park in my rented RV and just roll out of there. Not worth it, But you got to know the rules in every state.
Yeah.
And like that's another thing that can get you in trouble is like picking up deadheads. You better know what state says. So Colorado is cool with deadheads?
Yeah. There's a date, of course, but we were inside the limits and we knew that.
What dates?
Of when you can pick them up.
Oh, really?
Like
Yeah.
there's a shed hunting season now in Colorado.
And that counts for deadheads too.
Didn't know that. I'm like, what dates?
Yeah.
Nope, not season. Leave that deadhead
Well,
right there.
Essentially, people were coming in and pushing the herds around too early to, get the dropped antlers, and they wanted the calving and everything to have its proper course. So they put a date on it. I think that's the main reason, right? Yeah.
Well, I can get behind that. Montana Knife Company out of Frenchtown, Montana. Josh Smith, former lineman, blue collar dude, master bladesmith. Him and Brandon started this company out of a garage. It's grown into an amazing company that we believe in, and they support us. So we ask that you support them. Try out the Speed Goat 2.0. Throw it in your pack this fall. Get a bloody. See for yourself. It's going to hold a beautiful edge. Fixed knives are safer, especially for breaking down your critters. And this is something that you'll be able to pass down generation to generation. Onyx out of Missoula, Montana. I've been working with them since the beginning. This is the #1 brand when it comes to digital mapping. You need to know where you stand. You need to know the boundaries of public and private. You also are going to want to be able to do the bulk of your scouting from a desktop at home, especially if you're like me. You're a husband, a father, a business owner. You're not going to be able to physically in person scout all the places you have tags for. You need to construct a plan from your desktop, points of interest, and figure out how to execute that plan from the desktop. That's why you're going to use OnX. This thing works flawlessly in the backcountry on offline mode. You'll download your maps ahead of time. You can run tracking. There's so many tools and perks and benefits to the elite membership, including Hunt Reminder so you don't miss a deadline, Hunting Fool's digital publication so you can look into each state's proclamations. You can look into the nuance behind each state, look at the draw odds through the Hunt research tool, and make a better plan. Use the discount code ELKSHAPE to save 20%. Peaks Equipment makes all the cool stuff for the backcountry that you need to check out. So let's start with the most important, a really good headlamp. You can get the Duo, which is a white or green or a white and red light, 3 settings per, and you can make sure that it doesn't turn on in your backpack. Has great battery life, super bright. We depend on that in the backcountry. They have awesome trekking poles, which post ACL surgery, I'll be living on those trekking poles, which will get me in the mountains and keep me out there longer. Gaiters for keeping all your stuff underneath your boots dry, keeping you in the field longer. They make the best TP out there. They have an awesome stove that integrates. They have several options that you can choose from. Easy to set up, great shelter options, and much more. Head over to Peaks Equipment. Use the discount code ELKSHAPE to save 10%. What's your guys' thoughts on the most recent wolf released is now dead again? How did it die?
Wild. I actually don't know that.
Oh. I feel like Levi does.
No, I mean, no, it's a touchy subject, like there's so
What's
much.
so touchy about it?
Not on this particular one, just the wolves in general, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so, we live in Boulder, which is,
You guys all wanted wolves.
Not us.
I'm just saying your city largely responsible for that vote.
Oh man, and what's funny is, we live in Boulder and it is one of the most liberal cities, I would say arguably in the US, but it is the Denver Boulder area.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the state is about as conservative as you can be,
And they're the ones that are going to have to deal. Like those are the cattle
100%.
ranchers, all those guys. They're the ones that have to deal with the wolves.
Yep. And so as you start to talk to people, we were trying to help, do our part and make sure you understand what you're voting for. And, you talk to a lot of these people and they're like, yeah, I'd love to see a wolf in the wild, yeah, let's vote for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're like, 1, you're never in the backcountry. 2, what are the chances you're going to find a wolf and see a wolf anyway?
Yeah.
And so it's just, and in their defense, I think this goes both ways, but the way they word all this stuff on the ballots, like we're passionate about, especially with this last Proposition 127, I think.
Yeah. Which, shout out to all the outdoorsmen. Hal,
100%.
Yeah.
Colorado's, what's that Dan Gable's group? What's his?
CRWM.
Yeah.
Colorado's or the
Just
responsible.
Absolutely. I felt like we got a victory. Did you hear that I said we? Like I'm up here in Idaho.
Yeah.
But
No,
like
absolutely.
I was sharing as much as I could on my platforms and like we got a W finally.
That would have rolled downhill.
Oh.
Yeah. So those.
But what's so frustrating is, there's all this awareness that we were trying to bring as a community of hunters. But when you see it on the ballot, I've been studying this for 3 months And reading this, I don't know which way I'm voting. Am I voting for this or against it?
I mean, my wife's a great example of she's supportive of hunting, everything we do. Reading that initiative, she would have signed off on that.
For sure.
You know, just it's psychological warfare. It's really what it was.
And the other side of that argument is cohesive, unified, deep pockets, high IQ, versus the group known as hunters, not unified. Massive ego is the downfall of us. You know, I killed him on public land with a bow. You killed him with a rifle on private. Therefore, I'm better than you. You know, that you use a crossbow.
Doesn't help
You
anyone.
use the muzzleloader.
Yeah, infighting.
Like the infighting is our downfall and our egos. And I kind of make jokes about it, but like I'm seriously over it. Like if you show me on your phone a bull and tell me its score, like I probably don't want to hang out with you. Like I don't measure success in inches and scores. And like if I ask you, hey man, where'd that bull go? That's cool. But like I can't tell you how many strangers I've met, and some of them listen to this podcast. I'm talking about you. Like the first thing you do is show me. I didn't ask pictures of these dead animals and add numbers and quantify to me. Like we got to stop doing that.
Yeah.
We got to stop doing that. It's not about that. It's a cool part that we could talk about, but like we got to be unified. We got to be on the same side. And my biggest thing is if it's legal in the regs, it's ethical, then I respect the way you do it.
Yeah.
You know, it might not be the way I want to do it, but it's apparently legal, ethical, cool. Let's be on the same team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we tax the crap out of ourselves as hunters with that Pittman Robinson, like everything we buy, guns, ammo, weapons.
It's hard to believe the numbers that come out of that.
Insane.
You know, for conservation. I mean, it's amazing.
It's awesome.
And that North American model of conservation is one of the biggest reasons I think I got into hunting in the first place.
It's undeniable.
Yeah, it's just like the success in North America is undeniable.
Yeah. It's so they do word things carefully. They're crafty. You're at an uphill battle, but like I think getting wolves on the landscape, I honestly think if you guys would have left it alone, that you would have had wolves eventually.
They were coming back.
We already had a pack there, and it's so
Northwestern
frustrating.
Colorado.
And they're going to just keep coming through. Mainly because my home state here in Idaho, we can't manage them all. We got too much wilderness, too much timber. They're going to do well. You know what I mean? And they're going to branch out. And have you ever seen how far wolves can travel? Like GPS, like collared wolves. It's saying, man, like, hey, you want to go to Wyoming tomorrow? Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's check this dip down to northern Colorado for a little bit. Check it out. See the vibe.
And that's part of the reason that's so frustrating with this. The wolves is, one, they were already there, right? So we're not against having wolves on the landscape. It's just you're asking taxpayers to pay to bring wolves in over a certain amount of years, X million dollars, when they're already there and they're coming naturally. That's what, is frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I watched my elk spots in North Idaho turn to what it is now. And if I'm being honest, I was just there yesterday bear hunt. I do predator hunt North Idaho. That's it. I just was telling my nephew, who's 19, and he absolutely is infatuated with North Idaho because it's all he knows. He's grown up hunting there. And I just tell him, I'm like, look, man, there's probably like 2 bulls in this drainage, maybe. Back in my day, which not that long ago, it'd be 10 bulls cranking, and that's a lot more fun to hunt. And, that's when you're like cool taking one because it's a resource that's renewable. Right now, I just feel bad killing 1 out of 2 bulls that's in a giant 5-mile drainage. I feel like so. Hopefully it comes back. I know that the North Idaho trappers are awesome. The Foundation for Wildlife. You've heard of that foundation? My buddy Justin Webb runs it. It's Foundation for Wildlife Management. It's a really cool program. They're expanding into a lot of the Western states, but essentially it's like a $30, $40 membership, and it helps put money back in the pockets of those that are actually hunting wolves.
Nice.
Like to trap wolves is expensive. If you have to check your traps in Idaho every 72 hours.
Oh, wow.
And some of these traps are like 5,000-7,000 feet. You're running sleds or 4-wheeler tracks. It's a lot of fuel. It's a lot of time just to get there. You got to set the traps. They can freeze over. It's just expensive overhead. And then if you actually, catch a wolf, You got to go just, dispatch of it. If it's foothold, if it's snare, it's already dispatched when you get it. You just got to go to like trapping classes to make sure that you're not snaring ungulates. And there's a technique for that. I mean, I've taken the trapping class. It's really good.
Nice.
And, so this foundation can like reimburse you for some of your expenses up to $1,000 in
cool.
some instances to help offset. So it encourages people to like do something like, because without that wolf trapping, like I just don't think the ungulates would have a chance. And yet here's Colorado trying to get more. Like same in the state of Washington, like there's no wolf management going on.
There's no management plan at all.
No.
Well, speaking of species reintroductions and the grizzly, that's happening here in Washington.
Yeah, the Cascades. Right? Yeah.
Have you ever heard the story of the last grizzly killed in Colorado?
I have, but I want you to tell it.
So, I mean, actually, there's some game warden part of the story as well, but Ed Wiseman is the name of the guy. Actually, a friend of mine. He, my buddy, guided under Ed Wiseman in the 90s, so knows him personally. There's a book written on this. I think it's called The Last Grizzly in Colorado, something like that.
Makes sense.
Obvious name. But he's in the backcountry guiding, and long story short, gets attacked by a grizzly bear. And
after they were already extinct in Colorado officially.
Yeah, no one had seen a grizzly bear in, I think it was 20-some years, in the 50s maybe. And he's in the middle of getting attacked, and the only thing he has on him is his bow. And he finds an arrow, and hand-to-hand combat ends up stabbing this grizzly and wounding the grizzly bad enough that the grizzly crawls off of him and dies. Well, at this point, Ed
He's probably pretty messed up.
He's mauled.
Okay.
Yeah, he's mauled, and he can, barely crawl. There's a long story that, the person that he was guiding eventually finds him, and they think he's dead, but he's not dead.
Mostly dead.
And remember, he's the guide. So now this person that he's guiding has to find its way back to camp, which is on the other side of the Continental Divide, to get word out. I mean, I think this is late 70s, and they get word out. They fly a helicopter in.
So wait, he ends up staying alone, mauled nearly to death overnight, and he like has to crawl around to try and get some sticks and start a fire while he's
probably bleeding still.
Yeah. And with this bear that attacked him within sight,
This is insane.
So there should be a film about it. I mean, he's a legend, an American legend for sure. So they end up getting Ed out. They fly a helicopter in, and there's 2 helicopters that end up getting crashed on the way in and out. One to recover the bear, and one when it landed to pick Ed up, like it hit its tail and ended up crashing. Unbelievable story. Anyways,
and then they try and get him out on horses, and a horse falls off a cliff and dies. I mean, it's just this guy cannot get rescued.
Yeah,
dude.
So he finally gets out. He's at the hospital on his deathbed, and tells the story. I got attacked by a grizzly, and they're like, "There's no grizzlies in Colorado." They fly in. They find out that it is a grizzly. After the helicopter wrecks, come back, and they write him a ticket in the hospital while he's in the hospital for killing.
I mean, it's a federal case that, he's like facing prison time.
And he ends up getting exonerated through a lie detection test and all this analysis that was done that proved him innocent of actually having to fend for his life kill this grizzly bear, hand-to-hand combat. Unbelievable story. I'm sure I messed a lot of those details
When
up.
I go to poach a grizz, I usually just snap one of my arrows and run up and try to stab it in the neck real quick.
Yeah.
Come on.
Wild.
Wow.
I mean, it's such a
I
cool
need that
story.
book name. I need to read that book.
It's a really, really good read. It's hard to believe all these things that happen.
And then there's another one, the Ghost
Grizzlies
of Colorado, and his story is featured in that as well.
Oh, okay. Incredible.
Yeah, let's bring the Grizzlies back to
Dude,
Colorado.
there's a little snippet on social media platforms of a grizz in Yellowstone. Like somehow he got a bull bison down, and it's not chewed up yet. And like he doesn't like the way it's laying there, and so like he literally hooks on. Do you know how much a bison weighs?
Oh my gosh,
it's a ton, right? It's 2,000 plus pound animal. He literally just hooks on, lifts it up, and flips it over in one swoop. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh. I could do that with a bottle jack, a come along, a chain, and a 4-wheel drive truck, maybe. You know what I mean? Like that was just like, okay, they're incredible.
I love it when people are in Grizz country and they're like, oh, I'll just put some rocks over my food bear bag. You know, they won't, they surely can't tip that over.
I came across, had a bull down and quartered it, ended up needing to put our meat up high for the night. Big storm rolled in and had to go back to camp with the first set of meat. The next morning, came back to get the rest of the meat, and a mama bear and cubs were on the carcass. We came in from above them and ended up spooking them. I mean, luckily at the right time. The mom grabbed the carcass, one arm, other 3 legs, huffed down. She probably pulled that thing 50 yards, banging off trees, dragging it. I don't know how many pounds of left was in that carcass, but like it was nothing. It was unbelievable.
And that's a black bear.
Yeah, and that was,
Yep.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Different weight class. Wow.
But strong,
Strong, real strong.
determined.
Well, we have talked about a bunch of stuff I did not plan on talking about. We actually flew you guys in here. You guys flew yourselves down to basically help construct my archery course a little bit better. Sincerely, thank you for hooking a brother up with a dope black bear target. Who makes that Grizzly at Standing Grizz?
Delta McKenzie.
Yeah, shout out to them. You brought
Absolutely.
the turkey, and I already had a couple of your integrated 2D targets from Dead Nuts, and I had the Delta McKenzie elk that you guys connect me with. So it's good to finally meet you fellas, because you're largely responsible for the cool 3D targets I have. I only have, the dead shot. Is that what it's called? Dead
Nuts.
No. What's the other target manufacturer?
Big shot.
Big shot.
Big Shots. I have a Big Shots Antelope that they sent me years ago. And then I bought a Reinhardt elk target at one point. That was like $1,800 that my wife was like, are you kidding me? My wife was not happy. I just remember how unhappy Alicia was. And I got a little mini elk, but I like shooting 3D targets way more than paper or bag targets, straight up. And I think those 2D targets are even like as good. And I think you guys got to help back me up on that. Like people are like, I'm not spending $150 on a piece of cardboard. Well, it's got Quiver integration. So what is Quiver?
Yeah. So QuivAR as it exists now is a way to see the anatomically correct anatomy inside of one of these 3D targets using augmented reality. And that's where the AR in QuivAR stands for. So augmented reality. We also use LiDAR. We use artificial intelligence. So that's just sort of the AR on the end of QuivAR there. But we've developed a chip that we've partnered with a few different target manufacturers. They put that chip on their targets, and what that chip does is it allows you to scan the target, and then it places the anatomy in 3D space, like live in front of you, in the correct spot at the right size. So now instead of just shooting foam and then looking at it with your buddies and being like, I think that was a heart shot, or I think that was a lung shot, or that was too low. This is how it all started for us. Now you can actually scan in and look at it on your phone, and it's going to pull that anatomy up and place it inside that target, or on the 2D targets, place it behind the 2D, so you can actually trace your arrow with your eye and see, did I hit the heart? Did I hit the lungs? And just get those reps in of understanding what the anatomy is on these different species.
Yeah.
And that's literally why we started it. So we have a 3D range in Boulder that we go to, and it's, really steep angle shots up and down. And, we were tired of aiming for rings, and it was like, we want to practice hunting, ethical kill shots. And so, we would shoot quartering away or, steep uphill, and we wouldn't go for the rings because, if you're doing a quartering away shot, you're not aiming for those rings. And so then we began to kind of say, okay, well, all right, this steep up angle, quartering away, I think mine was a better kill shot. And, Matt would argue the opposite. So we came up with this
Mine was
idea.
better.
So we came up with this idea of, Matt's like, I think we can scan these arrows and we can actually see where it goes. And so what we have coming up next is, so right now we have the augmented reality, all the anatomically correct vitals for, I think we got 10 different species right now.
And by the way, the app is really seamless. Good job. I mean, those could be buggy. It's worked. I've had it for over a year. It's been a year.
Thanks.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of our foundational values of don't release something unless it's right.
Yeah. I've never had a bug on your app.
Awesome.
Just thought of that. Never.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I mean, random you say that. We were talking the other day, the amount of issues we've had from customers, and we're, thousands and thousands of users at this point. We have like less than 1% issues of
good.
people writing in with problems. So we're really proud of that. And that's a lot of our backgrounds are tech, and Levi especially. He's a professor, so we have that's ingrained in us is perfection and going deep in the technology.
PhD.
Dr. Perigo.
Wow. He's all humble about it. He's getting uncomfortable. I think we'll keep going.
Press him on it.
Super smart guy.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like my pet peeve is when people are like, oh, you got a PhD, you're super smart. Man, everyone is
smart
ignorant.
at something.
Listen, everyone is ignorant, just in different areas.
Yeah.
Right? 100%.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't like
Dude,
that
I could have a
stereotype.
PhD in trying hard. That's about it.
A for effort.
Yeah, that's good. So how'd y'all meet, you two?
Originally, we met through our church, 15 years ago.
What's the name of this church?
Flatirons Community Church.
Okay, like a non-denom?
Non-denom in Boulder. And my wife and I were recently married, had just moved to Boulder, and the church is pretty big. So it's hard to just naturally get community. So at the time, they had this thing, it was like a Craigslist that you could create a posting on to like get a group together. So we just posted young couples in Boulder, and, it was like a life group or Bible study, whatever you want to call it. And Levi and his wife showed up to one of the first ones. This is all pre-kids for us when we had.
Now, had you done a small group before, Levi, with your wife?
Yeah,
at this
absolutely.
point? So you had already done one. Had you done one before?
We had been married for like 2 months at this point. So
Okay.
I had done one before, but not with my wife.
Not with your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. These small groups are kind of like the cornerstone of a lot of these churches. Like they really understand that their net is wide, and they love having the congregation together. But if you're going to be able to dive deeper and to get fed spiritually, you got to go out away from that body on Sundays and like meet with some couples and get to have some real talk and some real accountability. And I believe in it. It's cool. My wife's in a women's only, and I'm in a men's only, but we're not in a couples.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever. Well, we have, but currently I go to the men's.
Yeah,
she goes to the women's.
Different phase of life. I mean, at this season in life, that's more what it is for Roxanne and I. Our church has the saying of, we learn in rows, meaning like we get together on Sunday and we all sit there and learn, but then we live life in circles. And, that's been true for me.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would encourage anyone listening who gets kind of, if you get squirmy when we talk about faith and stuff like that, just, I promise you're not going to live forever. And there's a physical body, there's that mental, you got a brain, and there's spiritual. At least I believe that. And so I think it would be important while you're here on this trip, try to find out what that truth looks like for you. That's as much preaching as I want to do today, because when I preach, it's like, I feel bad because I know I swear like a sailor. I'm often very selfish and self-centered, self-serving. You have to be good at elk hunting. I can certainly tell you that. If you are selfless and a good elk hunter, please call me and tell me what you're doing, because it's it's real talk here. But for you guys to meet each other, and eventually grow into like a business relationship out of this home, out of this circle, if you will, it's pretty cool. It seems like you guys are like outside of Quiver, you guys are still like lifelong friends, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were friends long before Quiver. Quiver's only a year old or a year and a half, but what you're saying there before, like we're all sinners, right? I mean, I don't like the stereotype of, oh man, you're a Christian, you can't swear, you can't have a beer. That to me is so far from what the goal of our lives and the kind of everything is about. So it gets really frustrating to me when they're holding you on a different, and that's fine. People are holding you to a different, standard, because we all should be living and striving towards that standard. But we're not perfect, right? That's the whole point of this journey that we're on. That's the goal, right? We want to be, and it's a much harder life to try and live that way. But
I'll go first. I suck. But
I heard this pastor say one time, and I'm going to butcher this, but essentially the gist of it is preach the gospel every day as much as possible. And if necessary, your last resort should be use words.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, dang. Like people are watching how you conduct your business, how you do life, and it's not what you say.
And I have maybe an extreme example of this, because obviously we're in Boulder and I'm at a university that is extremely liberal. And, they did a survey at the University of Colorado, and, one of the things is, religion. And in my department of computer science, I think there's 70 some faculty, right? It's big. We got 4,000 undergrad students.
Oh, wow.
And of that, it was 90% were marked atheist on this link, not agnostic, not, just I choose atheist. And so, almost everyone I work with daily is, affirm I'm an atheist. And so you get to have a lot of really good, deep conversations. And, on top of that, in my field, 95% of my students are all international, and they all have, different beliefs. And so that's why I left industry. So I worked in industry for 10 years, and I've been in academia now for 10 plus years. And the reason I did that, I never really wanted to be in academia, but I was working every day, making a lot of money, but at the end of the day, I'm thinking, what am I doing with my life? Right? I just feel like, people can get to the internet, 10 milliseconds faster. What's that really doing? And so, I wanted to do something that I think would make a change and kind of help people. And I finally feel that after, 10 years in academia, you get to really build relationships with people and shape their career. And I think it makes hopefully I'm starting to make a difference after this time. But what I'm trying to say here is, we, especially Matt and I in Boulder, we get a lot of interaction with, people not in our circle. Right. And I think that's a really big part of it.
Yeah. For me, living in Boulder I'm not living in an echo chamber, and I can be a little bit of salt there without trying too hard. But yeah, the foundation for Levi and I Boulder's full of people that love the outdoors, that hike, that bike, that rock climb, that, do ski, do all the things. But, we found each other early on after moving to Boulder. We both, we had a faith. We did all those things I just described. And then, hunting sort of sets us apart too. So it was unique that we got to meet at that age, young, no kids yet, recently married. And a lot of the couples in that group are still our best friends today. And it's 15 years down the road. And
y'all are doing life together.
Yeah, we started a bit, and we randomly live quarter mile away from each other. We could probably hit each other's house with an arrow if we really tried.
Dude, I remember when we first became friends a while back, I remember days before kids, it was like we would do a 100-mile bike ride, go do a 6-hour rock climb, and then maybe go skiing in the evening. You know?
Really?
The
triathlon.
Boulder triathlon.
Yeah. That's a sick little Boulder triathlon, man. So as a business partners, like you guys have careers outside of Quiver, and Quiver has multiple layers. And it seems like obviously we talked earlier today, it's a pretty apparent that a lot of people's feedback was, man, get to the market right now. And you're like, this is like the lowest hanging fruit thing we do. Yep. We do way cooler shit, but okay, fine. We'll release that. We'll talk about some of the cooler stuff you have down the road. You already teased it a little, but business partners, I've had several. It's hard to be a business partner. You have to find somebody who kind of almost has strengths that are your weaknesses, and vice versa. You both don't want to have the similar strengths. And just being around you guys today, I know that exists. I just don't know at what level that is, because you both freaking went out there and crushed that workout with me, and you both shoot bows, and you both have tech backgrounds, and you're both married and kids, and both outdoorsmen. But where do you guys differentiate? What are the strengths, weaknesses between the two of you?
Yeah, I think, I guess I didn't actively know how well we balance each other, but after working together, I think from my perspective, it's been cool. It's actually built our friendship even a bit more, because we've engaged now on another level that we hadn't, just as friends. And it's cliche to say we're friends first, but we sincerely are friends first, and Quiver's not going to get in the way of that for us. And I think one of the main reasons it won't get in the way for us is, one, our faith, but then two, we are balanced. And, Levi is much more entrained in the technical side of things. I have a stronger business background. So just as an example, we balance each other, but in the same breath, Levi will take the business side of things and run it and knock it out of the park, and I'll take the technical side for a bit and run it out of the, so it has been balanced.
Yeah, and so kind of like what you said, Dan, we're just getting started, and what we released is, right now we've partnered with these manufacturers, Dead Nuts, Big Shot, and Delta McKenzie, and right now you have these 3D or 2D targets, and you can see the anatomy, and that's all anatomically correct, and we can get into how we came up with the anatomy and how we know it's correct. But that is literally 1% of the tech platform, because we're a tech company first, and hunting is our passion, and so that's why everything we're building is by hunters for hunters. And the overall aspect of what we want the Quiver platform to be is community for archery. And we have a plan and a roadmap for that. And kind of like what Matt was alluding to earlier, like we have arrow scanning now, we have an AI engine, but we would rather have no release than a bad release. And so we want to make sure that it's good. And I appreciate you saying that, it's been bug free, because we practice really hard to make that effort. But, it's coming, and what we have coming, the whole goal of what we want Quiver to be in the platform is based around community. So should we talk about kind of what we got coming up, or what do you want to
I
hit
think
first?
we should definitely come back to the anatomy lessons and how you were able to do that so well. And then got to get into what you were hinting at today, where like if I have this black bear target, which I do now, I don't know if you're going to share this or not, and if I did, we'll scratch from the record, but we got to talk about it, like where I can do a session on the app, kind of record my shots, and then ping Levi and be like, what's up, dog? What you know about this?
What
And
you
then yeah, exactly. So
Dan just hit the heart at 100 yards.
Yeah.
Can you beat that?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, if I had to describe Quiver in a currently available app in another space, I'd call it Strava.
Exactly.
We're striving to be like the Strava for hunters in the archery space. And that means being able to record metrics, see leaderboards, have chatter on community, have competition. And what's going to enable all of that is this technology that we describe as Vector. And Vector is the ability to scan your target after your shot, and it'll identify where your arrows are and place a digital representation over that arrow. Much like if you're watching football, they put a yellow line on the first down. We're going to put a line over your arrow in 3D space. Once we have that data, we can say, hey, that line intersected the heart. It hit the lungs. You hit the guts. It was a good shot. It was a bad shot. This is your group size. This is how many arrows you shot. This is how often you shot. A bunch of data we can build around that once we have that Vector going. And that's our focus from a high level right now. As far as our software development goes, all of our efforts are focused towards making Vector a fantastic user experience so that we can release it to the masses, and everyone from, my mom, hey mom, can use it, down to my 8-year-old kid. Yeah. And in between. That's what we're striving for, is a great user experience for Vector.
And that big data analysis, like every other sports industry has that, right? Golf has that, running has that, cycling has that, but there's nothing for archers, right? And so once we start to gather this big data, so we have, leaderboards, I can see that Dan shot 10 shots today, and he shot, this group at 50 and this group at 80. Mm-hmm. Well, that makes me want to get out and shoot my bow.
Yeah.
Right? So you get this kind of sense of competition between them, but we can also start to do big data analysis and trend analysis. So Dan, you can have your own personal profile and say, man, when I change my release, my group sizes get bigger. Or if I notice I shoot before working out, something else changes, or my group sizes are bigger or smaller, or vice versa. And so as we start to track that over time, you can start to analyze. And then with these leaderboards, you can see, oh, well, Dan's shooting a Matthews bow and he's got great stats, and, we're shooting another vendor. Or you can start to see and track, because I think Matt always says this kind of, that which cannot be measured cannot be improved. And so with this, we want to be able to track. That was
Archimedes, by
Matt says it, but some famous mathematician, Archimedes, who knows him. But this idea is, all these other things have these stats, and we want to have that and build a community around that to make archers better.
Yeah. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Can't improve it.
Yeah. The other thing you did today was like you scanned, like we shot that Dead Nuts 2D mule deer.
Yeah.
You walk up with your app open and you just beep, talks to the chip, boom. You stand right at eye level of that arrow, and then you just scanned it real quick, and it took 2 seconds. And you're like, yo, Dan, check out where this arrow entered. Look where it passed through. Oh, you missed the heart by an inch. Like, we just had an elk immersion camp. We have videos on YouTube right now that are the first of its kind in my existence as a YouTuber, where we show you on an elk that has not been shot in the lungs, but it is dead, how much of the lungs there are, where they sit, how much air you don't really have. Like there's not a great margin of air for aiming off the vital V on an elk. Didn't know that. Also, one thing you said today, Levi, that made me like you more was you're like, yeah, that mule deer, that leg's straight down. It's not forward at all. It's not back. It's just straight down. I got to be really tight to that shoulder. Most bow hunters don't know that stuff, dude. They just don't have the reps. They're not thinking of it. And so if you're new to bow hunting or an OG, been bow hunting longer than me, it is not a bad idea to scan and look at anatomy, because as bow hunters, that's really the lifeblood. We're playing a game of inches.
Yeah, and we've that's one of the pieces of interesting feedback that we've heard is, oh, this will be great for education for new people. And, you know, it's yes, but also like, even if you've been doing this for 30 years, there's improvement. Mm-hmm. There's continuous learning. There's more muscle memory that you can get than you are getting now. And that's what's cool to me. This opens up a whole new layer of interaction with just a simple target. You know, you mentioned the 2D targets. They're fantastic because, you know, they're weatherproof, they're small, you can pack them up, you know, put them in your truck on the hunt. The biggest negative to them is they are just 2D, and you wonder, if I was an angle, where did my arrow actually go? Mm-hmm. What was, you know, on the other side of that? With Quiver integrated now, when you tap it, your 2D target literally turns into a 3D target, and now you have all the benefits of that, but just in a simpler, more cost-effective package.
Yeah, and if I go take that Dead Nuts elk and stand it next to that Delta McKenzie or that Reinhardt elk, one of the three looks like a real elk. It's that cardboard 2D with the Quiver, you know, technology. The other ones looks like kind of like a phony little piece of foam. I'm telling you, like, those cardboard targets I stand behind, I really think they help. They make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And historically, I did not shoot at 3D targets in my yard. I've got a block in a bag, shot them for years. We would have this range that we go to, but I was getting range time, you know, once a week, maybe every 2 weeks, because it's a drive. You got to get there. Anyways, I'm fortunate now with Quiver that I've got targets in my yard, and it changed how I practice, and it changed how I view animals in the woods. So like having that lifelike, whether it's a 2D or 3D thing to shoot at, absolutely gives you new muscle memory and new practice that you can't get otherwise.
Yeah, and you can practice, you know, quartering away shots, quartering two shots, steep angle, whereas, you know, if you're just shooting a bag target all day long, what I've noticed personally is when I'm shooting bag and block, my groups are so much tighter than if I'm just aiming at a spot, you know, on a...
For real.
And so that has been a huge learning curve, and I think it's really, really improved my game.
Yeah. And real quick, to put this out there, we're not advocating becoming a trick shot person, right? Like, this is about realistic shots that you would take.
Yeah.
And you can learn some cool things, but like, we're not saying practice like this so that you can do crazy shots that you shouldn't do. This is about becoming a more ethical hunter and knowing your shot placement.
Well, mic drop. Who was the first manufacturer that you guys teamed up with? Was it Big Shots?
Delta McKenzie and Big Shot. So the story there is...
Are they the same company?
They're not. They're two different companies owned by the same individual.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So Big Shot, Delta McKenzie was most recently, before its current owner, run by Easton. And then Easton Archery sold it to the owner of Big Shot.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Al and his son Brandon Pirelli, they run those companies. Fantastic individuals. And,
cool.
You know, we were fortunate. We launched at ATA 2024.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know anyone from anywhere, showed up at this show, just Levi and I, and we ended up winning Technology of the Year. It was an awesome experience.
Impressive.
And that put us on the map for these manufacturers to approach us. And Levi and I actually had developed a much more sophisticated app going into that used artificial intelligence to, 1, identify the species, 2, scale the species, 3, put the anatomy inside of it without any chip.
Yep.
But because we didn't think for the life of us anyone would ever say, could you please put your technology in my product?
Yep.
And after that, when we got approached, we were like, oh my gosh,
Pretty good idea.
Now we can license this and have more control over it, not for control's sake, but so that we can control the launch and make sure it goes perfectly versus let it out there in the wild. So yeah, shout out to Big Shot and Delta McKenzie for bringing us on early on, and it's been an awesome ride.
When did you get connected with the guys over at Dead Nuts?
So the dead nuts, I think it's a similar thing. Like they see same thing with 3D targets and 2D targets. They haven't changed in 30 years, right? I mean, it's been the same thing. So now we have something that can make them interesting.
Yes.
Right. And so, the good thing about us being tech, right now you can see the anatomy in there and that's great and that's fun. But when we release aero scanning, when we create leaderboards, it's just an app upgrade, right? So all of these features are going to be available, on the same targets that you buy today. When we release all these new updates, it's just a app update. And so it's been outstanding working with dead nuts as well. And like you said, the 2D targets are amazing. You can take them to your elk camp. And if you're just shooting a bag and block, and maybe you don't want to spend the money on a 3D target, right? That's great. I mean, like you said, that one target was $1,800, right? I can buy an elk target, a 2D target, and put it on top of my bag or block. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Right? Because you're still aiming for that spot, not those dots on the bag or the block. And the other cool thing about dead nuts is they have broadside, quartering to quartering away. And so I can shoot all these different angles, for cheaper than I can buy a 3D target. And they're packable. I can take them everywhere.
They're more realistic.
Yeah, they both have their places.
100%.
And the story behind dead nuts, though, when we originally developed Quiver, one of our ideas was, man, we can turn 2D targets into 3Ds. So we actually had bought a dead nuts back in the day, developed part of the app around the dead nuts, did our initial release with the dead nuts target as an example. And then we never reached out to them. They never reached out to us. We got this thing going with Delta McKenzie. Fast forward to 6 months ago, all of a sudden we got an email, hey, this is Colin Corey from Dead Nuts. We're interested in working with you guys. And it was just so easy from there. They're awesome.
And those guys are solid dudes,
Yeah,
man.
100%.
Yeah.
Corey's out of Washington, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. And now when's Reinhardt, man, figure it out, y'all. Have you guys talked to them yet?
Yeah, we've got a deal with Delta McKenzie, and they've got an exclusivity on our target.
Well done, Delta McKenzie. Well done.
And they took some risk with us, and so it's completely
that's legit.
Legit.
I
Absolutely. So we're gonna ride that out with them for sure. And we have a bigger picture on the horizon for us, but for now, we're ride or die with them.
No, that makes sense. And then I would really like to circle back to how you guys figured out this whole anatomy thing, because it is mind-blowingly realistic with color and everything. It's not cheesy. It looks like them guts are right there in that heart and lungs. Those organs are what you would see once they're on the ground. They're in there. You did a good job. How'd you get the scale right? How'd you get the data? How'd you get the scans? How'd you get everything so that, you guys did a good job. How'd you do it? Or maybe you can't share. I don't know.
Yeah, the how we actually physically did it, we actually have a medical designer that makes human models digitally for surgeons to work on. That's who's helping create and modify our models. So super fortunate, top-notch local talent out of Denver that's not part of the Quiver team, but has been a partner with Quiver in helping actually develop and bring Levi and I's drawings and ideas and all this to life. But I'll let you jump into the anatomy.
Yeah, the anatomy, Dan, is really, really hard to understand why there's nothing out there.
Right.
How many of us have searched online for, let me look at elk anatomy or let me look at turkey anatomy. And what do you find out there? You see a 2D drawing of, something that may or may not be accurate. And so we've come to work with many top people that have all been outstanding. We've worked with veterinarian, wildlife biologists, conservation officers, and then professional hunting guides. And so, for example, I work at the University of Colorado, and, the head of the veterinary school at Colorado State, which is one of the top vet schools in the United States, as we're talking to her about, big game anatomy, she says, "Oh, we don't have any of that information.
What?
We don't have any big game anatomy, not a picture, not in our books, nothing." And so it was just mind blowing that, these are some of the most popular big game animals in the world, and there's just no standard right now. And so it was also a little frustrating to talk to biologists and conservation officers, and then them all have different opinions.
Yeah.
And so it's been really helpful talking to Dan, people like Remy Warren, to kind of say, hey, listen, here's where the elk should be. Move it a little bit up here, move it over here. And we also, the turkey was ironically one of the hardest ones to figure out. Because a strutting turkey, you know, they got feathers everywhere. It's hard to tell where that anatomy is. And what was ironic about it is it's one of the most consumed bird game animals in the world, right? Or in the United States at least. And there's not an anatomy scale anywhere, right? So Matt and I know a guide and a pretty accomplished turkey hunter. I think he has
friend of a friend.
I think he has 100 Grand Slams. Not 100 turkey kills.
How many
100
turkey
Grand
are in a Grand Slam?
He's 4 or 5.
Yeah, there's a North American.
At least 5.
There's
I
a
think.
North American, and then if you get the Mexican, you get 5.
Oh, wow.
And so
Think about that many turkeys.
yeah, so he knows something about turkeys, and
He knows something that I don't know because turkey hunting's cool, but it ain't that cool. Wow. I said it.
Everyone's passionate.
Yes.
And so we showed him the anatomy. He's like, man, that's great. And he said, you know what? I'm going to go out turkey hunting tomorrow. And when he goes out hunting, he obviously harvests something every time. And so he was able to actually give us, you know, millimeter measurements of heart, lungs, the internal cavity, all of that stuff.
To compare against our models that we had.
Yeah. And so then we could tailor it specifically to that.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, like Levi said, that what we're trying to get to is a gold standard. Because what there is right now is a lot of opinions. And there's, you know, plenty of picture of elk on the ground after it's been killed where the cavity's decompressed and been laying there with anatomy. Like we've all seen that. But I mean, we have the keyboard warriors for sure coming after us of that's
really?
wrong or this is wrong
Yeah.
or this should be there. There's actually less and less of that
That's
than
good.
there was initially. But I mean, again, back to infighting. Like, come on, guys, can't we agree that this is better than it was? Like,
Sure.
this is somewhat helpful. And to Levi's point about this is tech, we can always update it as we have new information. We're working on CT scans of animals
Oh,
to
sick.
get like, you know, detailed high resolution scans of animals with correct anatomy. We can update and push that to the models, you know, and you'll see it show up on your phone. So as we learn, the app will update. But yeah, we're really proud of the anatomy. And I think, how many species do we have now?
I think we got 10 in the app. Right now we have them, each of those models. So you can obviously see it on the targets, but we have these models in the app as well. And we have them locked right now. It's a free app. But to unlock them, you need to scan into a target, whether that's at, you know, a big box store or your local archery shop, just because the real experience we think is seeing it in person. And if you haven't done augmented reality before, it's kind of weird. Like people don't know what to do with it. You know, they kind of hold it and they think it's a picture and, you know, the real experience is, it's like, no, you can move all the way around. Like, look what that frontal shot looks like on the elk, you know.
Get your phone up there, zoom in.
Yeah, push it in there and get into it. But, we found that people just don't really know what to do about AR. And so we have all these models so you can see them, whether you're just sitting at home without a target, just so people want to study, right? What's the black bear anatomy look like, right? Because that's one people argue about a lot. Or the turkey anatomy, and you know what's the difference between an elk and a bear, or elk and a deer. And so we have all that in the app right now. And like Matt was saying earlier, we want to be the gold standard for this is the anatomy for whatever species it is. And one other thing too is we've had a lot of African big game safari companies reach out to us and say, hey, can we get a 2D target and anatomy for here? Because when the United States people come over, they're aiming in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And we would love to have this for training for them.
Yeah, I mean, think about that once in a lifetime hunt or a unique tag that you pull that.
A mountain goat.
Yeah, you want to.
I remember pulling a mountain goat tag and being like, oh, dang, I got to figure out where to aim on these things. You know what I mean?
And that's why those 2D targets make so much sense, right? If you're going on a hunt like that of a lifetime, or even if you're a East Coaster, I only hunt whitetail, you know, let me actually see what it looks like to practice on an elk.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. And I guess this is where I kind of want to end the podcast, because I know you guys will have at least something to say about this. There's going to be always that pushback crowd that's like, you guys are making it, you're overcomplicating bow hunting. Like, you don't, like, I didn't need this when I started bow hunting. I've killed this many animal, blah, 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 you know, like, whereas I'm over here like, yeah, man, I've killed a lot of bulls. And, I just feel like I'm always learning something new, something like I don't got nothing mastered. I don't have 10,000 hours of elk hunting. I might. No, I don't think I do. So, what's your, yeah, I don't know. I'm not asking this question great, but I think you know what I'm saying is like, there's always pushback and technology and just mean comments, but like, what's your argument to those people?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a proper level of technology and there's a proper way to deploy technology.
Okay.
And a great example of this is Onyx. Onyx has done something that no other company really has done for the hunting industry, and that's bring widespread adoption of a tech to hunters. It's very rare to meet a hunter anymore that doesn't pull out their phone and use Onyx GPS. You know, and that's I think a simple step to take as a hunter. Be like, oh yeah, technology made things more accessible for me, helped me, and it advanced me. And that's what we see ourselves trying to do. You know, we've been talking about augmented reality and AI and LiDAR. You know, those are fancy words that describe technologies, but our goal is to package them in such a way that they're super easy to use. And the final goal is to help you, to teach you, to help you engage more, to help build a community around archery. And if like that's our focus, then I think it's a pure thing to do. And, you know, we did want to really make sure that we weren't a game. You know, we didn't want to be a digital virtual reality game. We wanted this to be your bow, your arrows, outdoors, real targets, shooting. And, you know, that I think is also a differentiator for us, is that it's as real as possible. And we're just taking technology, packaging it in such a way that it's in your phone to help you become a better hunter, to make you a bit more confident. And that's that would be my argument for why technology can help you become a better hunter. There's a choice to make. Like I say, change is inevitable, growth is optional. Change is here, it's around us with technology. It's our choice, your choice, personal choice to grow in that. And I think Quiver lets you grow in that.
And I think also the next generation of archers, right? They're born with technology, right? And so, you know, I think to bring that next generation in, we have to keep them engaged. And I think technology is going to be a big part of that.
Well said, Levi. Guys, these are my friends from Colorado. We're going to leave a link in the video description for the Apple Store and the Google Plays. You 6 Android users. I'm just joking. I always like to throw iPhone jokes in there. People get really upset about that.
Real quick.
Oh my gosh.
The only app that is available for Android user is the Big Daddy Target. So we do have it out there.
Okay.
So the Android haters, you've got something. It's called the Big Daddy Target.
Okay.
Everything else is compatible with iPhone though.
That's cool. I've had the app for quite a while. I find it very valuable and really enjoyed just hanging out with you guys. That was a great workout. You guys carried me through that. Thank you so much. That was a fun little break a sweat session.
It's mutual.
And shooting bows with you guys. And you're just good people. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner. I think you guys have big things ahead of you. And carry on. Keep grinding. And maybe you'll have to quit your full-time jobs and do Quiver full-time and elevate all our games, guys. So separation is in the preparation. Check out my homeboys. We'll catch you on the next one.